Sometimes big surprises come in small packages, you overly pixelated bastards. €15 or dollar for this game is nothing, considering what it offers. Maybe not in terms of content size, but in terms of content quality. For some reason I'm skeptical about indie CRPGs, but that is not based on realistic experiences, but maybe a bit of prejudice considering that there are games out there like Atom, Underrail, Kenshi and probably many other great ones. When it comes to the best of the best, Skald against the Black Priory should be put into the conversation for one of the best indie CRPGs. At the time of doing this video, it is my 2024 Game of the Year, which is even stranger considering how much I despise pixelated graphics, but we'll get to that later. Story starts off strong, even though it is a very familiar beginning, with our adventurer being on a ship to the Isles that is attacked by a giant sea monster. It wrecks the ship, killing most on board, but with a couple survivors left as well. Upon waking up on the shore, it is time to explore the island, learn more about the sea monster and the island itself. After meeting a couple survivors and inhabitants, it is uncovered that something strange is happening. For example, the only city on the island has been taken by reavers, mad cultists essentially. Then, by digging deeper, we start to find out why madness has taken over the island. I won't spoil anything, but just say that the story is quite good and had me interested throughout. Writing is simple without too much text, unless there is a need for deeper explanation. I like concise writing like this because reading walls of text tires me quickly. No filler text and filler dialogue, but still enough to convey everything the player should know. Dialogue system is straightforward with some options available to learn more about lore, some skill checks and screw talking get to fighting option. It works great as it offers enough explanation, has diplomacy skill check, different outcomes and good simple writing that is easy to read with enough in it to convey emotions, goals and personalities. I love how the story progresses through chapters. Almost every chapter is unique with its own story inside the overarching story done in a way that it never feels disconnected. There aren't many locations in the game, but every place has been well done, distinctive, but within the margins of the world and the art style. Every location tells its own story. Only a few civilized locations in the game, which makes it more eerie, but there is always something additional to explore, like a nearby cave or a forest that is connected to a side quest and that leads to quite a reward. Skald doesn't have a map, which would be very helpful at times, so the player needs to pay attention to charted paths. Thankfully, it is all well done, so that it is not overly convoluted or annoying, but instead intriguing and engaging in a good way. Scale of the locations is quite brilliant as there is very little idling and pointless empty space, but with enough to explore and be rewarded. Loot is fixed, unique, nicely scattered and rewarding. At the beginning it is very difficult to get new gear without a thief or loot. Everything worthwhile is expensive. Thief with high thievery can steal things from vendors, but then vendor suspicion is raised, which affects further prices and increases stealing difficulty. Good and simple system. Side quests are quite nice and usually lead to interesting conclusions. For example, there is a village basically untouched by the events where it's a bit too good to be true. Then the Wizard Tower, where unique challenges in the form of damage resistant enemies happen. There aren't many quests, but almost all of them have a unique and well told story. No fetch or kill 10 wolves quests. Side quests also feed the world and events well. NPCs and companions are well written, plenty of interesting characters. Reavers leaders, for example, what a mad bunch. NPCs have visible personalities and in most cases it doesn't feel like you're talking to a tree, but someone that can give proper feedback. Companions are alright and sometimes they will make their presence known by reacting to the events in their own way, which adds to the immersion and gives them life. They don't interact amongst each other though, from what I remember. Companions are definitely a positive of the game and I like these brief interactions without the need to go deeper to stick my dick into every single one of them. Thank you developers for not having sexual interactions. I'm sick of CRPGs forcing sexual connections like that is the only viable goal of the whole deep connection ordeal. Now let's talk about combat. Skald uses simplified Dungeons and Dragons rules and it works fantastic. To hit chance is based on attributes and quality of the weapon. Armor has soak property that reduces damage, but it is randomized how much damage is gonna be soaked. Armor also has encumbrance that reduces dodge and some skills, but it can be countered with perks, so that even heavy armor doesn't have penalties on higher levels. There is plenty of spells too, but thankfully it is not overwhelming. That's how I would reduce them too in some of the Dungeons & Dragons games. Elemental schools are present next to natural, mind, spirit and body. Combat is turn-based and uses phalanx tactics a lot to increase dodge values for the frontliners. I like that because phalanx mechanic helps in adding depth to the positioning game during combat. Backstab tactics are quite powerful, so thieves are highly recommended. Every class has special skills such as automatic crit strike, precision strike, spell burn to get a bit of mana back while damaging yourself, earthshake that AoE stuns enemies, and a lot of other stuff next to spells for caster classes. There is enough to continuously make things interesting. Balancing is quite good too, which helps a lot in continued interest. Difficulty is nicely done, although sometimes I think it could be a bit tougher, and every time I started to think that, the game threw a curveball with new enemies and increased the difficulty. Nicely done difficulty progression with different type of challenges occasionally. Classes are simpler than your typical Dungeons & Dragons game, but work rather well with enough options to go for specialized skill tree paths early. Classes are Hospitaller, Thief, Champion, Arms Master, Officer, Hierophant, Guild Magos, Battle Magos and Ranger. Overall I quite like this compact character progression as each level matters a lot thanks to perk points for every level up. Really best way to describe Skald is a small piece of heaven. Everything is scaled down to make the journey more meaningful and not to annoy players with time wasting mechanics and clutter. It's what I'm always saying. It's not about hours spent with the game, but it's all about meaningful hours spent. Around 20 meaningful hours, which is the required time to beat the game, is something I would take over hundreds and thousands of farming, grinding and other bollocks. There are a couple of things I don't like though. While I understand that it is a nostalgia trip, there are levels of pixelated graphics that should be acceptable before it becomes detrimental to the game. Level of pixelation in some aspects hurts the game in my opinion, specifically when it comes to human sprites. While the art style is great, overpixelation creates blobs instead of humans that I could get immersed into aesthetically. Locations look good as there are enough details, but I just can't accept that anyone would prefer pixelated blobs instead of literally anything else for sprites. It sucks to look at, and I don't care about anyone's nostalgia. Sprites should look at least Fallout 1 or Baldur's Gate 1 pixelation level. Anything lower than that shouldn't be even considered, because it takes away from aesthetical character investment in a game like this. Oh look, it's blob talking. Sorry, but in this case nostalgia desire is detrimental for the sprites. Locations are good enough though. Other than that, I think enemy combat attacks are too fast, which makes damage and status effect text pop up and go away too fast, creating confusion rather than clarity. Couple UI upgrades would be nice, like repeated heals outside of combat that is a pain in the ass to do. Also on the release date there were few big bugs, but those are all fixed or will be fixed. As you can see, not that many complaints. Can't recall the last time I've had as few complaints as this. Skald against the Black Priory is a true CRPG gem that I can't recommend enough. It's brilliantly compact but not too simple to have the potential to become boring. Easy 9 out of 10, which translates to an amazing game. Thanks for watching and check out the description if you want for Patreon and Subscribestar links where I do reactions to upcoming games. See you!